Hello and welcome to the editorial analysis of the Hindu. Today we shall be discussing the editorial of the 14th of May. So coming to the first article, Private, Public and Political Morality. A very, very important article this is. This can be a direct question in the ethics paper itself. And if not directly in ethics paper, I can assure you in the several test series that you are going to write for your mains paper, you will have this question. So the article in itself is very, very important. It is describing about the differences between these three types of morality. If not directly, indirectly, you can use it as a fodder material. In fact, the article is so important that the entire text of this article is what I have provided in this particular video for further future references also. So coming to the discussion. Now, first and foremost, you need to understand the context. The context is vis-a-vis morality and what is the importance of political morality at this point of time when elections are what are going on. This is the time when political morality of several institutions is what is at stake. At that point of time, this article is very, very relevant. It is relevant for ethics paper, for paper 4 general studies. This will be a very important topic. Coming to the first point that this editorial is highlighting, it is discussing. The first issue that has been discussed here is with regards to Ashoka's concept of morality. Now you should know that ethics is something that goes long back in the Indian philosophy also, and Ashoka himself was an advocate of something called dharma, which at that point of time was a means of ethics. He had several scriptures or several, for that matter, rock edicts displayed at different places so as to convey his idea of dharma. And in this idea of Ashoka's dharma or Ashoka's ethics, he had divided morality into three parts. The first was an interpersonal aspect of morality. This is the morality that we have with our close relationship, for example, with our children, with one's spouse, with one's parents, with one's teachers, and as well as with one's relatives. Here one is governed by a particular type of morality which largely is involved with a more affectionate relation and more partial relation as compared to the other types of morality. The other morality that has been discussed here is the public morality. This is the morality or behavior of a person when he is in the public sphere. Now here again, one might have one's personal choices, but one shouldn't express his behavior as comfortably as one does in his interpersonal relations. Here, Ashoka's dharma or Ashoka's ethics is advocating for some degree of restraint, especially restraint in self-glorification as well as restraint in the criticism of another being. That means one's hate speech is what should be controlled. Also, self-boasting is what should be controlled. This could be clearly indicative of a political party where leaders are doing this very, very frequently. So in that context, public morality or the idea of Ashoka in public morality is what becomes important. So that is how you can relate it to the current scenario. The third type of morality is the political morality. Now here Ashoka advocated that the third type of morality, that is the political morality, is the most important, because in this sphere one has power, and because one has power in this sphere, this morality is what has a very, very huge impact on the masses. So in this morality, utmost care is what is required. Here Ashoka's ethics advocated that in this relation between the ruler and the ruled, for both have something to give to the other. The ruled have to give obedience to the ruler, whereas the ruler has to ensure jan hita, that means the well-being of all the people that he is ruling. He has to ensure that in the entire ruled crowd is what is happy, they are prosperous. So this is what is need to be ensured through political morality. And how will this be ensured? This can only be ensured if there is justice, and not only is there justice, this justice is what should be impartial. Only then is political morality acceptable. So this is one aspect that is very, very important. This becomes important in the concept of the Chief Justice of India also recently, that political morality is what is expected out of him, primarily because he is in a position of power. So in that context you can relate it. Now another idea that the editorial is discussing here is about the philosophy of Friedrich Hegel. He is a German philosopher, and his philosophy was also very much similar to Ashoka's. He advocated his idea based on three concepts. He said that morality is again of three types. One is the morality that one has with one's family. The second is the morality that one has in the civil society, and the third is the morality that one has in a state. Now, when one is in a family, in that point of time, one is guided by utmost affection, one is guided by utmost association with these members, and as a result of which his behavior might be very much biased. So that is one type of morality. When one is behaving in the context of a civil society, which he calls as a market society, at this point of time one is largely guided by self-interest. At this point of time one is highly competitive, one is highly selfish. At this point of time he is only interested about his own gains. So this is another type of morality, because at this point of time association or kinship for people is what is not felt. The third type of morality that has been explained by Hegel is the most important type of morality. He says that when one comes in the context of a state, at that point of time one's morality is what is guided by certain values. And all of these values are what have been discussed by all the citizens, and they have been decided upon. For example, for India, these values are our constitution. Now, once these values are what have been decided, then all the people are bound to act not out of self-interest but collectively with each other to uphold these values. And that is what results in the formation of a state. So that is the idea that Friedrich Hegel is advocating vis-a-vis morality of the state. The third concept that has been discussed here is with regards to the private and as well as public morality, and what is the difference between these two types of morality. Now basically the editorial discusses that one might be very moral in his private sphere, but this does not obviously translate into morality on the public sphere. For example, one might have one of the best relations with his or her family, but this does not mean that he will be equally good to all the other religions, and if that person is in a position of power, he might very well advocate or very well implement his duties. So these are some issues that have been discussed here. These ideas are basically very, very philosophical in nature, and as a result of which much discussion on this is what is not possible. But you have to understand that these philosophical ideas is what you have to use. Questions on them are what you can expect. And you have to use these philosophies with your practical examples in ethics paper, and that is the key to good marks in ethics paper. And yet again, coming back to the topic, again the editorial says that even the public morality, if one is very much moral in his public sphere, this might not obviously translate into him being moral on a private sphere. So this is the analysis that has been given vis-a-vis the private and political morality. Indeed, this article is very, very important. The language that has been used is highly crisp, and it is again very much relevant for UPSC. So I have included the entire text. For those of you who wish to keep this article as a reference, you can refer to our video again. So that's about this particular article. Coming to the next article, redactive pricing audit and CAG's duties. Again, this article is slightly important because of this concept of redactive audit. Now, what is this redactive audit is what you need to understand. But before that, first and foremost, you need to understand that every single country that is democratic, it has an institution which is responsible for the audit. These institutions are what are largely known as the supreme audit institutions, not only at national level, also at international levels. All the major institutions and organizations have their audit institutions. So this is the system that has been developed, and this is what is there even in India. In India, we have the CAG, which is a constitutional body. This is what is formed under Article 148 of the Constitution, and the CAG is responsible for auditing the expenditures of all the tiers of the government, that is the 3 tiers of the government, one at the center level, then at the state level, and the third at the local level. So indeed, CAG is one of the most important positions in our constitution also. So that is the first aspect that you need to understand. The next concept that you need to understand is what is redaction. Now basically, redaction is what is a term that is being used primarily which refers to obscuring or removing sensitive information. Now what happens is that sometimes a data or a report is what is to be published by the government, but it might happen that this report might have some data which is very, very sensitive for the government. So the government will have a tendency to eliminate or edit this particular data from this report on security reasons, or for that matter any other reason which the government feels is apt enough to not divulge this particular data. So that these kind of actions by the government is what is known as redaction. So this redaction is basically elimination of some data from a particular report. So this is what redaction means. Now what has actually happened is that the CAG in its audit report has said in the preface itself, the CAG has noted that the report that the CAG had received for auditing vis-a-vis the Rafale deal has been highly redacted. So a lot of reduction is what has been done, and now this matter is what is being studied or what is under by the Supreme Court, because Supreme Court is going to analyze that is it legal or is it constitutionally valid that a CAG should audit the report that has been that has undergone redaction. So that is what is the entire issue, and that is what is the entire controversy here. You should know that the CAG's audit report is what is again constitutional. It is under Article 151, and this is what is to be submitted to the President. So if the CAG has said that this kind of a reduction has happened, then that is a major cause of concern, because you have to understand that the CAG is a constitutional body and he is answerable to the people of India. And if such a report is going to come where a large part of the data is what is eliminated, especially this data was what was related to the pricing of the Rafale deal, and if the price is what is not revealed, it is not revealed that who else was there in competition, then obviously there is a huge amount of lack of transparency that is taking place, which is going to impact the accountability. So that is one issue that is emerging here. So that is what is important. Next, you should know that this is all in the context of the Rafale deal, which is very much in news, and as a result of which a lot of politics is what is taking place on this. So you can use the Rafale deal as an example of lack of transparency. You must talk about CAG as well as redaction. A direct question on CAG is also what you can expect. So if a question on CAG also comes, you have to talk about this recent issue of this redaction. That is the entire relevance of this particular article. It is largely a fodder material. So that is the relevance here. And that's about our discussion today. No other article is very much relevant. All the other articles are highly political, so they are not important for us. So that's about our discussion. I thank you all for watching the video.